Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Ferndale City Council meeting for Monday, October 26, 2015. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Marnie, would you call the roll, please?
Council members Lennon. Martin.
Here.
Pollica.
Here.
Piana.
Here.
And Mayor Coulter.
Here, thank you, and we have a quorum this evening. The next item of business would be the approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I support.
Moved by Pollica, supported by Piana. Any discussion on the agenda this evening?
Your Honor, I think item 9 has already been addressed, the scheduled closed session. We addressed that prior.
Thank you. So we'll remove item 9 from the agenda. Thank you.
I'll amend my
Your motion?
my motion to.
Very good. All right. Any further discussion? Marnie, would you call the roll, please?
Council members Martin.
Yes.
Pollica.
Yes.
Piana.
Yes.
And Mayor Coulter.
Yes, thank you. The agenda is adopted. We have several presentations this evening. The first one being from the Southeast Oakland Coalition. And yeah, you want to come on up to the podium and introduce yourself to people who don't know you, and welcome.
Well, thank you for having me here. My name is Herbert Ivory. Been in Ferndale most of my life. Okay, so I'm very familiar with this. Went to Ferndale schools, worked in the Ferndale schools 43 years, and I'm still here. And if you ask me after I retired how I got here, I have no idea. My wife keeps telling me you're crazy, you know, but I'm in Ferndale, okay? But anyway, I've worked with the Southeast Oakland Coalition.
And let me just say, he didn't just work for the schools. He was the principal of the high school for a number of years, if you don't know Herb. Yeah.
Long time.
All right.
But I work with the Southeast Oakland Coalition. I'm the chairperson of the board for the coalition. And we are one of 14 coalitions in Oakland County, and whose goal is to help in the prevention of drug, alcohol, and prescription drug abuse among young people. Yes. And we work with young people. We work in the high school, both high schools and the middle school. And we also do something called Safe Night, where we have some kids coming over from Kennedy and also from Coolidge. So just want to introduce ourselves. This is Mr. Harris. He is the community organizer. Now, you probably know the coalition with Carly Podjakowski. Mm-hmm. Carly was the director, but Carly has now moved on to another position.
Oh, okay.
As of really about 6 or 7 months ago. Okay. And so I was a chairperson. And so when she moved, I became the chairperson, and we don't have another director. We're waiting for SAMHSA to approve some funding for us, or carryover funding, so we get a new chairperson. That's what we're waiting on. But we do have Mr. Harris here. He's a community organizer. So, you know, we're doing a lot of things. We decided that no matter what happens, whether we're funded or not, we're not going to let the coalition die. Okay. So we've decided we're going to stay in the community, continue to work with young people. He's a lot younger than I am, so he'll probably be around a lot longer than I, as far as I am, as far as doing this. But just want to come in and say hi, let you know who we are. And we have a meeting every second Wednesday of the month at Ferndale High School. The superintendent has given us an office there. So if you want to come to the meeting, please feel free to do so. It's 6:30. We're done at 7:30. And so everything is going well. I just want to come in and just say hi to you, to all.
Well, Herb, I appreciate that. I wasn't aware that Carly had left, so I appreciate that.
Carly left.
I hadn't seen her around.
Yeah, Leonard Harden left. He was the community organizer. Mm-hmm. And both of those guys went on to take different jobs.
Excellent.
And kind of left me here, you know, and Mr. Harris here. And we still have a board, you know, of directors. Yep. Gary Safai is our treasurer, and Officer Simpson, who is our secretary. So, you know, we're still functioning, just to let you know.
Does council have any questions?
No, thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Thanks for coming by tonight.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Appreciate it. All right, our next presentation is by the Ferndale Public Schools, and yes, there she is. The school trustee, Raylon Leaks May, is here this evening.
Good afternoon. My name is Raylon Lees-May. I'm a Ferndale Public Schools Board of Education trustee and treasurer. I would like to first start, thank you, Mayor and Council, for having me here tonight, and thank you to community members. First, I would like to say congratulations to the Ferndale Eagles Marching Band. Over the weekend, they took first place at the Clarkston International with an overall score of 89.7. So go Eagles. University High School has inducted 34 new members to the National Honor Society, so congratulations. Ferndale Public Schools has taken on a new way in which to recognize our staff, where we would call them the Eagles of the Month. So each month, a teacher and staff will be recognized, one from elementary, one from secondary, and one from a supportive staff. This year, the first award this month went to Lindsay Gonska, JFK, Brooke Brimacone, UHS, and to Robin Major, who works the enrollment offices for us. So congratulations to those ladies. Well-deserved reward. I would also like to let you know that Ferndale Public Schools, we've been trying very hard to sustain our district, and we have a proposal, a millage, a non-homestead millage coming up on the ballot November 3rd. What that millage renewal would do is it would provide Ferndale Public Schools with $4 million every year to sustain our district and to continue to have our quality programs and quality programming. This means a lot to me personally, being a school board member and having being a parent of children in the schools. We really need the support of our community to pass this millage. It is a renewal, and I want to stress that it is not a new tax. It is a renewal of what we've been what we've been utilizing all of this time. This renewal will end, I believe, on May 6, 2016, and that would result in a 14% reduction in our school district budget, and we can't let that happen. So I'm putting out a plea that you continue to support Ferndale Public Schools, say yes to Ferndale Public Schools. We're doing great, we're on the rise, and we really need your help, so thank you. What's coming up also on Thursday, October 29th, we have the Hijinks and Hilarity concert. I don't know if any of you have gone to that concert, but it's a Halloween-themed concert. The kids can go up on stage after the concert and trick-or-treat in their costumes and get candy, but it's a very lovely concert, and it's going to be in the Ferndale Public Schools auditorium, Ferndale High School auditorium at 7 o'clock, and I hope that you can make it. Free concert. We have a wonderful choir, wonderful orchestra, so please, if you can make it, please do. And I believe that is it. No, actually, I will put out a plug. Vote November 3rd. Please get out and vote November 3rd. We need you, the schools need you, and you have the right to exercise your vote. So, thank you.
Thank you. Our next presentation is the Ferndale Area District Library, and I know I saw Trustee Monique Herzig in the audience, and she even has a presentation, right?
Well, thank goodness for Adam. He's brought us sort of into the 21st century.
Truly.
So it's helpful for us, but also for the TV viewers, because I know this runs continually. So my first slide. Oh, Star Wars Halloween Spooktacular this Saturday from 6 to 8. And I just want to say, how awesome is our staff?
That's great.
Awesome. Right. So that's from 6 to 8 p.m. We're still looking for a C-3PO. That's for community members, council member. I'm just putting that.
Got to be short for that one, right?
I've also been told a Yoda would be helpful, so trying to round out the cast of characters. You don't actually have to wear a Star Wars-themed costume in order to participate. We just really want you to come. So this is in conjunction with the trick-or-treating that will happen with the city businesses along 9 Mile on both sides of Woodward.
Excellent.
6 to 8 p.m. this Saturday. Back to books. We have author Greg Sumner, who is a professor, and the subject of his newest book is how important Michigan and specifically the Detroit area were to fighting in World War II. So this is a viewing of some of the images, a conversation, and a book signing on Wednesday, November 11th from 6:30 until 8 p.m. Oh, the Mockingjay lock-in. the ever-popular books I never can remember the name of that my kids have been through. Hunger Games, thank you. So Mockingjay lock-in from 6 to 8 p.m. We do need parental permission in order to participate in this, and it's obviously aimed at an older audience for students that are 12 to 17 years old. Start here Saturday. In recent times, we've had to close the library on Fridays, and so we haven't been able to do the first Fridays. We'd like you to start here on Saturday. So we have music programming in the library. Sometimes we get a little noisy. And this is actually very exciting. I did forget my Star Wars prop that was made by one of our pages, but I wanted to share this because this is actually puts Ferndale on the map as a participating community with the DIA's 30 Voices, or 30 Americans. And we have an exhibit right now that is called What We See, and the meeting with the artists is on November 5th with you can read the screening of a collaborative live action animated feature, more music in the library, and it's open to all. Annual bake sale, call the library or Kelly Bennett to commit, please, 248-547-6001. And thank you very much for your continued support for Ferndale.
Thank you, Monique. Any questions for Monique? A lot of good stuff at the library.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. The Downtown Development Authority, and I know we have a couple of folks, including its new executive director, but he's not up to speed yet with what's going on, is he, Cindy? You're going to handle this tonight.
I am. I actually enjoyed this so much I begged him to let me do it one last time. And I'm so totally kidding.
Your nose is growing.
Anyways, we have absolutely nothing going on at the DDA.
Thanks for coming. Yeah.
As you know, our new executive director, Barry Hicks, started last Monday, so he's been working really hard trying to get to know all the names and the faces and the people and catch up on all the things that we do, meet the businesses, get up to speed on parking and retail recruitment and development and liquor licenses and all that fun stuff, as well as helping facilitate our anticipated new move to City Hall sometime around the first of the year. So we've been working on that, and other than that, we've got a lot of events coming up. We're getting into our winter event season. Saturday, November 21st is Holiday Hoof. There's still time to register. Registration is $45. You get a race T-shirt. You get a pass into Festive Ale, which is at the same time, as well as a free drink/food token, depending on what you want. We've got some other fun swag and giveaways. Register. It's a 5K fun run and walk. You can register alone. You can register at a team. Like the assistant city manager tells me he's going to get his friends to do, and told me that he thought council should do a team as well.
To run?
Yeah, or walk or crawl or roll, whatever you want to do. So we've got that coming up.
Mike Lennon will be our team captain.
Right behind Mike.
Love you, Mike. I know you're homesick, but
We're also getting ready to start celebrate shopping small. Small Business Saturday is traditionally the Saturday after Thanksgiving. It really kicks off and celebrates shopping small, shopping local. We're teaming with the Chamber of Commerce on it this year to really expand our reach to celebrate all Ferndale businesses, small businesses. We just got our big box, I would say packets in the mail, but they're giant boxes of material. We've got some other stuff going on, and we're calling ours Small Business Saturdays, because while we'll kick it off that day, we really want people to shop local all through the holiday season. We've got some fun kind of games and incentives to offer people, so we will be rolling that out really soon, and we encourage everybody to shop local for the holidays. And then our annual Holiday Ice Festival is right around the corner. It is December 12th. We'll have the reindeer. We'll have free photos with Santa again. Lunch with Santa will be at Rosie O'Grady's this year, since Buffalo Wild Wings is no longer there. So we're working out the final details on that. And of course, we'll have sculptures around town and live carvings and entertainment and all sorts of fun stuff.
And speaking of the holidays, do you have a date for the tree lighting yet this year?
We have not. We're thinking about doing it with Holiday Ice because we're running Holiday Hoof during the day instead of at night. we couldn't really figure out a good way to get in that, but I'm trying to
Yeah.
coordinate Metallic Laws too, because he's always such a vital part of our tree lighting in Ferndale, because we have to do things just a little bit different. So as soon as I know that, I will let you guys know, because we look forward to having you there every year.
Great. Thank you.
That's it. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you. And she's not on the agenda, but I see our county commissioner is in the audience. And so, Elaine, you want to take a few minutes to bring us up to date on what's happening in Oakland County?
Thank you. I want to do some follow-up. First of all, we are starting the committee of 3 commissioners to study how to redistribute tri-county funding, or how to distribute the $2 million that was recently allocated by the county. And my priorities is that we can use some of this money on local roads for maintenance, and that it will be distributed population-based, which will be very different than how we've done things in the past. So, to be continued.
Great.
I had mentioned about another rally summit on regional transportation on November 8th at Charzetic, and that has been canceled. And they're looking at, and this was done at the RTA, the Regional Transit Authority request. The goal was to present the plan and hear more comment on the plan, and they didn't feel they were quite ready to do it. So we're looking at a future date, and it's not confirmed, of November 6th, and really partnering with the RTA. And we want people, and I will let you know, we want people to come out, look at these plans, give critique, because from that is how they're going to set the plan in the future. So the more feedback, the more valuable the plan will be. Our vice chair of the commission, Jeff Mattis, is soon to resign. He was appointed as a new circuit court judge by Governor Snyder. He's one of the 2 judges that are replacing Judge Snells and another judge, and so we will be appointing a future replacement. He represents Rochester Hills, and we will be voting on who our new vice chair will turn out to be continued. And then finally, I know that there was an article about the Animal Care Center. We did vote on funding for that, and there was discussion. I did vote in favor of it. And this process has been a long time coming. The last 3 or 4 years, we've had a very vocal animal activist group. And through a lot of hard work, we've demonstrated that the Oakland Animal Care Center is very archaic. And I am pleased that we are building a new facility. There were some commissioners in my caucus particularly that were upset that the county is not willing to bid out gold LEED certification. And I have to agree. I don't understand. They do return on investment and bid out everything else. I don't understand the resistance. They have assured us that they will meet the minimum standard of LEED, and and I really want them to do that, but I didn't understand why they wouldn't go for a higher standard, or at least look at the cost. But, so I voted for the amendment asking them to do that. That didn't go through, but overall, I do support a new animal care center. It is a large ticket item. People need to know that we're bonding for about $15.5 million. And the property where the animal center sits in Lake Orion is valued around $4 to $5 million, so that will offset. And then we've identified money already to service the bond debt within the Oakland County budget. And so it's fiscally responsible, although it is one of those jaw-dropping amounts of $15.5 million. And if I took a tour about a year and a half ago, if you saw the facility that we're using, you would want us to invest in a new facility too. So, any questions for me?
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Good to see you. All right, our next item of business would be call to audience, and this is anyone here in the audience's opportunity to ask us any questions or make any comments that they have on anything that's not on the agenda, because you can speak to that when we get there. So if you'd like to talk to council tonight, come on up, give us your name, your address, and 3 minutes is yours.
Hi, I'm Sharon Chesson, Earl Boulevard in Ferndale, and I'm here representing Ferndale Community Concert Band. And we were going to do a display of our talent this evening, but life got in the way and we had a couple of musicians that couldn't make it this evening. So I apologize for that. But that just leaves the excitement leading up to this coming Sunday, November 1st, 3 o'clock, a performance of our very first full-on concert. And this will be the first of many to come. So it is a free concert. We ask a small donation of $5 per family or $3 per individual, but if you got a 50 in your pocket, you can drop that off too. It should only last about an hour and 15 minutes, and it is in the Ferndale High School Auditorium at 881 Pinecrest. Thank you.
Excellent. At 3 o'clock.
Oh, by the way, I do have some posters at the back if you'd like any of them to put at your businesses or at home. If you'd like to have a sign that says concert at Ferndale High School in your front yard so your neighbors come, please email me and at sharon@sharonchess.com. We'll make sure you get a sign.
And leave one at City Hall if we don't have one already, and we'll put it up in the...
I addressed Cara already.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thanks, Sharon. Great. Looking forward to it. Anyone else like to address council this evening on any issue? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda, which is items that council considers routine and we enact in one motion unless council removes something. Let me read that for you now. Item A would be the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held October 12, 2015. Item B would be the approval of the low bid of $9,994 to the Natural Community Services to install perennial beds at Fair Park, and that the DPW director be authorized to execute the contract contingent upon the city attorney approval of the bonds and insurance expense charged to the general fund parks improvement account. Item C would be the approval of the purchase of trees and shrubs from Snow's Nursery for Fair Park, and to charge that expense of $17,005 to the general fund parks improvement account. And finally, item D is the approval of the bills and payroll as submitted by the city manager's office, subject to the review of the council finance committee. What is the council's pleasure on the consent agenda this evening?
I'd move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
All right, it's been moved by Martin and supported by Polika. Is there a discussion? If not, Marnie, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmembers Polika?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
And Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. The consent agenda is adopted. Moving on now to the regular agenda, a couple of items there. Item A is the consideration to appoint Donald Johnson to the Civil Service Board for a term ending December 31st, 2020. That's quite a commitment. I know Donald is with us, right? That's you? You want to come on up and just introduce yourself and just give us a few minutes of your interest and...
A few minutes?
A few minutes.
I've already committed to 5 years. Really
Remember, he's a lawyer.
Right? Yes, we need to negotiate. I actually
2 minutes are done already, so you've got one left.
Nailed it. Run out the clock like a good lawyer. I actually just moved to Ferndale in January, so I'm relatively new. It's been a wonderful city to put down roots. I moved from D.C., where I worked at a think tank. I'm a tax lawyer, so I did tax and economic policy for a number of years, and was a librarian before that, so I've done a law librarian. So I've done a number of things. Here in the area, I actually work for the city of Detroit. I am the business analyst for the General Services Department, so I manage the money for the internal service provision for the city of Detroit. Yep. Which is no small task.
Right.
So yeah, I've been serving on the elections task force with the wonderful Marnie, and heard that there was a vacancy on the Civil Service Board, was begged to apply by Marnie, and it sounded like a wonderful way to continue to be involved and help out the city that I've come to really love. So
Well, clearly you're not qualified, so.
That's okay.
No, I'm teasing. Does council have any questions of Donald? Do you like Donald?
I actually go by Donnie.
Donnie. Thank you.
I just really appreciate your willingness to serve. Your resume is incredibly impressive, and I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to town. We'll put you to work.
I'm at your service.
All right. Is there a motion?
I move to approve, whoops, I better open up. I move to confirm the appointment of Donnie Johnson to the Civil Service Board for a term ending December 31st, 2020.
Support.
All right. It's been moved and supported. Is there discussion? Marnie, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmembers Piana,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Polika,
Yes.
and Mayor Coulter.
Yes, that item is adopted. Thank you, Donnie. Appreciate your willingness. All right, item B is the consideration of a residential parking zone policy recommendation. And our Assistant City Manager, Joe Gaushaw, is going to present this, I understand. Right, Joe?
Yes, Mayor and City Council. Looks
Excellent.
like Councilman Lennon knew I had a parking presentation tonight. Checkmate. I will keep this brief, though the structure looks like I won't. I have learned. So, shooting for 15 minutes or under. First,
Thank
before
you.
we do begin, I would like to introduce a member of our focus group who helped ultimately architect this policy overhaul. We have one member. Garo, I'm not going to butcher your name. Could you please just come up and be acknowledged for your participation?
Yeah, thank you for your work. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Sir, member.
And, really? Wow.
I think we have some more board openings too, Garo, while you're here.
Now that this job is over, we'll put you something else.
All right, so this is, tonight we're here to just, we wanted to present you kind of a final policy recommendation to overhaul the residential parking zone policy. A brief background, in 2012 or 13, the city manager's office did put in place a temporary pilot program to install residential parking zones just in an area we would call the Southwest District. That's West Troy and West Saratoga. Since then, that has currently expired, so we wanted to take this year as an opportunity to overhaul the policy and study to see if we could extend the policy and standardize it to other districts bordering the downtown. One of the original challenges that we discovered when we launched this was on parking enforcement, and I think you'll find that we will be proposing a sustainable program moving forward. We wanted to first capture some data. We wanted to understand what the layout of the land looked like. So we had, in the spring of 2015, Republic Parking take a traffic study of all the residential neighborhoods around the downtown, and there will be a map in the next slide that will identify which streets were involved in that study. The focus of the study was between 4 p.m. and midnight, which are prime traffic hours, especially Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And the traffic counts included both sides of the street where applicable. The other part of that equation is understanding the supply. So we wanted to understand how many parking spaces would be involved in the supply if parking spaces did exist on these streets, which they currently don't. So we took in several different factors. We measured each street, deducted those, and ended up with a general assumption of what we could imagine the supply to be if these parking spaces were in existence on these streets. Here we have the 4 quadrants. We did study the northwest, what we would call, and what would be referred to in the rest of the presentation, northwest, northeast, southwest, and southeast districts. So 4 different districts. I neglected to include all of the data that I would have loved to have included, but this pretty much captures generally, I think.
I know it killed you to pare it back.
Oh,
but
it killed me.
I know.
But this should capture the concerns generally of what residents would likely have voiced, that they've observed over the past few years. And these are just the streets where we would notice that 75% of the parking supply would be occupied or deemed occupied during the peak hours. Those peak hours were between 7 and 9 consistently in the downtown, which would be a mirror of the peak hours that you would see in the downtown system. So between 7 and 9, You can see the blue line is the supply, and the orange-red line is the peak demand. You do see that demand does exceed the supply at a few of these key streets.
Thank you.
I did provide a supplemental material, so you have time to review those too if you'd like at your leisure. So our baseline policy assumptions, after we gathered the data, we wanted to, number one, make sure that this was resident-oriented. And to do so, we wanted to establish kind of an evaluation of what service we are providing, and in doing so, we identify kind of the mission of the program and what the expectations of residents might be leaving this program. We wanted to make sure that this was balanced, or as balanced as we could, and in doing so, we recognized that there are several different stakeholders that use the residential districts outside of residents, so that would have a stake in this policy too, including businesses, the owners, the downtown employees, and resident guests and visitors of the downtown, and patrons. And we wanted to make sure it was sustainable. And now that brings in the city's perspective. That was a challenge, as I had mentioned during the launch of the original program, was coming up with an effective enforcement policy and staffing that enforcement. So we wanted to make sure whatever we put forth for residents, they could rely on to be there not just next year, but 5 years from now. So we pulled together an RPZ focus group, which Gara was a part of. We did get representatives from each district. I'm really hesitating to reference the Hunger Games as well now with my districts, but so we did get resident representation from each district, and we did set those 4 focus group goals for them. And we set forth 3 baseline policy assumptions. Those are included in your council packets as well. The focus group took time to review and vet each one, criticize each one, and ultimately rank each one and provide recommendations for how we could tweak or improve the ultimate number 1 ranked policy. In addition, we also asked them if they were their neighbors and they were receiving a survey, what information or what questions would they want to receive and what feedback would they want to offer. So they also helped us design our survey as well that would go out to their residents after this. Some key insights that I do want to highlight that came from this focus group in this great project is we identified a lot of public safety concerns that we wouldn't have known otherwise in the Northeast Quadrant. We do hear some concerns here and there, but they identified some specific concerns, and I just want to take the time to say that's how important it is to take the time to meet with the residents to get the lens from their perspective. So you can look through some of those safety concerns. We did get verification that the needs of the businesses are important to the residents. So it's not just a resident-only policy. They did offer that it was important to recognize the needs of the business owners and try to develop a balanced policy. And support for technology investments. There was a lot of support for improving access to permit purchasing, including online purchasing, and there was support for the city to investigate license plate recognition technology, which can be integrated into an online permit system, so it's easier to track your vehicle and your permit. Also easier for enforcement. Of the 390 households surveyed, 140 actually responded, which is an extremely high response rate. That definitely tells us that this policy resonated not just with the Southwest District, but with every district that was involved. We do believe that's a statistically significant representation of the population. And I just wanted to provide a couple key insights. Again, the results are all included in the council packet, and we'll have those available online for the public to review them as well. The most preferable time restrictions for traffic, that was one of the questions that the focus group really wrestled with. It looks like the majority of the respondents did settle on 2 hours to 3 hours. The Southwest District right now currently has 2-hour time restrictions. We would be interested in applying that 2-hour time restriction moving forward into the other districts. We asked about how they would rank enforcement hours in general 4-hour blocks. We wanted to understand really a little bit more about what their pain points were and where they would emphasize the need for enforcement the most. To no surprise, 8 p.m. or 4 p.m. to midnight were the 2 top scores. But if you look, late night was a significantly high score, between 12 and 4. And you'll notice that the early morning enforcement wasn't as needed. That was the low score on that. So that's very telling as well. And then this just again represents how important it is to come up with a balanced policy for the residents. We do have a significant favor towards very important and somewhat important as far as recognizing the needs of business owners and trying to work with a policy that fits for everybody. So, not surprising, the proposed residential parking zones do echo the study area. What is not represented, we did study the streets east of Paxton as well in the Southeast District. We found that residents in the surveys weren't as interested in receiving the policy here, and we also found that the traffic counts didn't support the need. So I'd like to summarize just a few quick points of the RPZ policy. Again, the 4 districts, we would limit permit holders to using their permits per their district. So if you lived in the Northeast District and you had a permit, you could not apply that to the Southwest District. It is meant for you and your district alone. Again, we would implement 2-hour time restrictions for each zone. As far as structure, this was something that came out of the focus group and also the surveys. There's a lot of support for this, as you'll see in your packets. We would automatically make eligible any homeowner who achieved the criteria to receive 2 RPZ permit stickers for their vehicle per year. The preliminary cost estimate is about $15 a year for the program, and for that you would get your 2 stickers. Then you would also get 2 guest placards that could allow you some flexibility for guests who are coming in. That seemed reasonable in the survey and in the focus group also, but there was also an additional need that was expressed in the surveys, and that was, well, what if I'm having a special occasion, and what if I need more than 2 flex passes? This doesn't occur that often, but you might have a graduation party you might be hosting, or a wedding reception you might be hosting, or a post-wedding reception. So we did a little bit of research, and we had some ideas from the focus group, and we put together an idea that we would allow really a purchase of single-use pass books. So you could purchase 1 book a year, you get 30 passes, they're at your discretion at a low cost, and once you're out, it's a capped use. That seemed reasonable to the respondents so far, and it seems like the only hiccup is making sure we can identify the internal mechanism to actually manage that, and that's managing the single-use expiration. The hours of enforcement would always be enforced. For the qualification credentials, for those of you watching, it's really going to echo what's in place right now for the Southwest District. Providing documentation for proof of residency, you want to make sure your vehicle registered is registered to this property address. It's only 1 permit per vehicle for the stickers. And again, the gas permits are flexible. And we do ask that there's no outstanding payments owed to the city. This is a benefit for the residents. So if you do have outstanding parking citations or if your taxes are out of whack, then we would ask you to take steps to address that before the issuing of the permit. And these will be an annual permit process. We are recommending that we issue them in the fall, in September 1st, and they're good through August 30th. We would begin the renewal process in the month of August as well. The time frame is recommended so it doesn't coincide and confuse with the downtown extended long-term parking permit program, which is run on the calendar year. And again, we recognize there's also a significant rental population that did respond to this, and we do have a lot of new lease programs that begin in the fall. There is going to be 1 caveat to this, and it's Resident Permit Only Parking Program, or RPOP. This came out of the focus group and out of the survey as well. We had a demonstrated need, public safety consideration for this group, and there's some conditions with these 2 streets that are unique to these 2 streets that might justify a resident permit only parking program. We're going to put this in place, we would recommend, for a year, not sunset it, but administratively schedule ourselves to look and review this program and see how impactful it was in alleviating some of those concerns. The unique conditions, again, they're narrow streets. Both sides of these streets have alley access but no driveways, which means 2-sided parking on each, or parking on each side of the street has caused this narrow street to even be more narrowed, and it's caused quite a public safety concern from those residents. Following up on that, one additional measure we took, we had TIA conduct a traffic assessment of the area, and actually recently they just submitted their recommendation to put in all stop at each point in the intersection, and the police chief, as of this morning, did issue a traffic control order to initiate that recommendation by TIA, and we expect those changes to be taking place soon. This is the 2 streets in the RPOP district that are being proposed. And closing out, I do want to make sure that we point out on performance measurement. We want to know that we were successful in what we've worked on over the past year and that we can measure the success of that. So we will be doing some benchmarking traffic studies before, during, and after to see how our progress is going. We'll be monitoring the downtown long-term parking permit program as well to see if we are pushing any of the traffic back into the paid system, and as a result also achieving some higher membership in the long-term parking program from those downtown employees who may be getting pushed back into the system. Qualitatively, we do intend to do one follow-up survey again, following up on the questions that we've asked this year and to see how effective we've been. And we would like to reconvene the RPZ focus group again this time next year and get kind of a post-program evaluation. Efficiency considerations that have come out of the focus group and the survey. In improving service delivery, there was consideration into looking into LPR technology. I will look into that and get some pricing for consideration. Developing and launching an online permit portal, that seems to be a consistent desire, I think, from the business community as well. So we can, I believe, look forward to moving for a partner to do that with us.
But currently, that's not available, so
currently
people have
that
to
is not
come
available.
to City Hall for the permits?
Correct.
Okay.
And secondarily, the goal of sustaining improved service delivery. So we, this has come out of the parking committee, and we may revisit looking at a plan for possibly recommending a phased out of the Duncan meters. You'll notice on August 6, 2015, the company Duncan Solutions sold off that part of their company. So they no longer support it. They don't exist. They sold it. So that being said, it might be time to revisit the long-term investment and then capture some of those efficiencies. And here's some next steps as far as proposed timeline. And are there any questions from City Council?
All right. Other questions of council?
I like the idea of the permit registration on September 1st. Can we train the staff to combine that with the messaging for the snow emergency stickers as well? Because like you mentioned, a lot of those streets don't have driveways, and a lot of those folks have to get their snow emergency sticker every year. Yeah. So if they're coming in the fall anyway to get this, you know, we can offer them both at once.
Good idea.
Yep, absolutely.
I had a question about the all-way, four-way stop. And I know it's an inexpensive solution, but I was wondering if there was any consideration to looking at our neighborhood traffic circle as part of our Ferndale Moves. Non-motorized plan is to look at putting those in as a traffic calming device. I know that's a longer term, a little bit more expensive. We've estimated them at 10 grand, and we've identified them at similar intersections on crossroads, like West Marshall and Beaufield. And if, you know, that's, West Marshall's a little bit wider than Bermuda. So I was just wondering if we could look at doing some of those innovative solutions for non-motorized planning in addition to the stop sign, which I see as probably a shorter term solution than the longer one.
We could definitely receive that feedback and investigate.
Because I'm sure the TIA looked at our non-motorized plan in terms of applying their policies to solving some of these solutions.
Are you talking about
Yep.
It's in our Ferndale Moves. It's our neighborhood traffic circle. We planned it
Don't
out.
spend too much money on it.
I'm just saying that these are where we're going, right?
That's where you're going. That ain't
It's
where
in our
I'm going.
it's in our priority projects. It's in our non-motorized plan. We have them planned all over our city. So just saying,
Okay.
be a good way to start.
Bike lanes.
So I think this is awesome, and thank you so much for the thorough investigation about identifying policy to fit our residents' desires and needs. this is just so comprehensive. I'm very, very pleased.
Joe, one of the issues, I'm sorry, Councilman, go ahead.
I know you were counting on 15 minutes, but I'm the one council member that lives in this area that is going to be directly affected by all of this, so I have several questions. And I'm glad that I wasn't involved in the process, because I think it needed to be done by community members outside of government. So I'm glad that a number of residents stepped up and became a part of the process and developed this. I'm a little confused about the Book of 30 and the cost, because in the presentation it said there were some kind of conflicting information. It was $1 per pass, and then there was $3 per pass, a Book of 30. So is it going to be $90 for this Book of 30 passes?
No. I mean, technically the fee schedule is yet to be set by council, but we would recommend the $1 per pass, so $1 per use for the book.
Okay.
We would be looking at the actual recovering the cost of the actual administration and printing.
Okay, so
to be clear, the costs haven't been vetted yet or determined. We wanted to give some kind of conceptual idea.
Okay. Well, and I'm gonna pretend, even though I really am, Joe resident, I'm gonna present my questions to you as though I was someone coming to council.
That's fair.
Wanting to know. So I have to pay $30 a year for 2 passes for my vehicles.
No, sir. And this is why it's going to be very clear when we present this in the fee schedule. But what we are proposing is that for $15 a year, you are eligible to receive 2 stickers for your vehicles for your house.
Okay. So not 15 apiece, 15 for 2.
Right, 15 for 2. And in addition to that, you get 2 guest passes that you can use, and you can hold them all year. You can use them and circulate them to whoever you want, complimentary. So for $15, you technically get 4 passes.
Yes, but the two passes that I'm paying for $15 are the stickers that will be affixed permanently on my vehicle, so that I can park every day with those passes in front of my house or in front of my neighbor's house on the street. The 2 guest passes would really only be used temporarily on various vehicles.
That'd be your discretion. If you had a guest in town for a weekend and you knew they were coming in town, you would know that you had these 2 placards that you could give them for the weekend, and then you'd hopefully take them back before they left for the weekend.
Okay, so I'm a household that has 4 vehicles. So I can use 2 of them on my 2 permanent passes on my vehicle, and then the 2 guest passes I could intermingle between the other vehicles?
Technically, that's at your discretion. We do not micromanage that. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. This is just the quantity that we're providing. How you use them is up to you.
Okay. Now, you were hoping to start this process in the spring, but you want to start the fees in September, right? You want to start the
we would work.
Process wants to be in September, but you'd like to start this whole.
We would work that out. Well, it would be helpful if we could start it in the spring, so we could learn a little bit before we implemented the paid feature. I think what I would recommend to you is that we probably provide. We probably cover the cost of the program between the spring startup in March to the September 1st, and then begin assessing the actual fee in September 1st. That gives us some time to make sure that the kinks are out before you pay for these passes. We want to make sure that your service is learned from and up to snuff. So,
okay. I guess I'm a little confused about the northeast quadrant and the rest. You mentioned that they're a bit different. And I do understand the problem is that most of their residents park on the streets. So what I could gather from the presentation was that section really wouldn't get guest passes. Those homes would just be issued the permanent passes for their vehicles. And then they would also be available to use the Book of 30?
They would actually be available for and that's part of the devil's in the details. But what we would offer them is the 2 stickers as a guarantee. And I believe our intent would be to offer them the discretionary book But I don't think, because it is a resident-only permitted area, I don't think that the 2 additional guest passes will be needed, because they do have their own alley access as well to utilize in addition to the street. We just recognize that several of them do use the street, as well as the business community and patrons of the local entertainment district. So our
If I
goal
may-
is to...
Sure, not to get in on Greg's question, but the alley access isn't 12 months, though. I mean, theoretically it's there, but nobody plows that. So if you, I would suggest that we look at rethinking the availability of the 4, because if somebody does have more than 2 cars, that alley is not accessible year-round, and not everybody can get back there. So I just want to point out the concern around it.
Sure. Mind you, we are keeping in contact with the focus group representatives who are there, and both of them have read the policies. To date, they haven't shared any concerns, but I can bring that up with them. And because it is such a confined district, we can identify and target those houses and make sure that they understand the policy and it does meet their needs before we implement it. Again, a lot of that is going to be part of the learning process. If we do launch this in the spring, we get the luxury of getting that buffer time to work out the kinks.
I appreciate it. Sorry, Councilman.
That's okay. And then my last question was, or comment was, I would hope that when we do the survey after, you want to look at surveying the results after the impact afterwards, we may want to include the streets adjacent to those, so the third streets out, because I think you're going to see some impact to those residential streets once this has been implemented, because I think people will then be parking further out, and those residents may have some comments to share.
We do expect that, enforcement breeds traffic movement. It can either go 2 ways, deeper into the residential zones or back into the paid parking system. A lot of these are downtown employees. We do know, we're aware of that. We are going to be working with the DDA to try to make complementary policy improvements to the downtown parking permit program as well, and see if we can help balance that.
That's important. And the other thing that strikes me is, one of the things I've heard is, you can have all the great rules and regulations, but the enforcement of it is what's really going to be key. And so what's been your relationship with our folks with Republic, and how, do we have the capacity to enforce this in a way that will give residents confidence that we're taking this seriously?
Yeah, I'd like to introduce to the public also the Director of the Public Parking System for Ferndale, Kevin Cans.
Hey, Kevin.
Hello, Council. If you could ask me something a little specific on that.
You have the capacity to enforce the
Do you have the capacity to do this on a, right? I mean,
Sure.
that right. There
We
you go.
do have the, currently, it would.
Nightly.
It's
If you
like
don't say it now, because we don't want people to know that you don't.
We do have the capacity.
I'm teasing.
We've
I
been
really-
doing
Yeah.
the enforcement on the southwest quadrant. We can do a pretty significant coverage there, as Garo could attest. He and his neighbors have definitely been vocal with the improvements that they've seen in the traffic flow there.
Yeah.
It would take some adjustment in our enforcement schedules, but Joe mentioned some of that. With the less interest in the morning, there really is less traffic in downtown from 10 to noon.
Yeah.
I would add that we did, in anticipation of the enforcement perspective, we did actually ramp up some hiring in the summer to prepare for the possible implementation of this in the fall. So we're actually getting some training experience right now, and we do have more enforcement officers who are active right now. So I'm confident that we could support this with enforcement.
Yep. Thank you. Great.
I'd like to make a motion then. I'd move to approve the proposed residential parking plan and direct the city attorney to draft ordinance language for the November 9th council meeting.
Support.
Moved by Martin and supported by Piana. Other comments or questions?
Just a comment. I've been working on this since I got here 4 years ago.
Yes.
And Joe, you did a really nice job with this. I think the devil is in the details. You're right. And part of the reason we've been less than successful in the past is enforcement capacity. And I think that you've kind of focused on that with this. And, I trust our ability to adjust as we move with this. I think that I really like the idea of not charging for March to September to get our feet wet and figure this out operationally. But this is a very well thought out plan, and I'm extremely grateful for the resident involvement in this. So, nice work.
As a residents, if you're watching, thank you for participating.
Yeah. And I would just echo that. This is not the sexiest issue, but it's a complicated one, and there's no perfect answer, but I feel like you really have struck a balance here that has the potential to be successful. So thank you for your work. All right. If there's no other questions or comments, Marnie, would you call the roll, please?
Council members Martin,
Yes.
Polika,
Yes, with explanation.
Piana,
Yes.
and Mayor Coulter.
Yes.
I just want to say that personally, I don't like this. As a resident, I don't feel like I have to pay. Should have to pay for parking passes. However, this was an instance where the community got together, the residents agreed to a program, and I'm willing to support the residents in that program that they presented.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Okay, our next item of business is call to council. I see the police chief is still with us. Anything for the good of the community this evening, chief?
Thank you, Your Honor. I have several things. Over the weekend, we once again experienced a large number of larcenies from vehicles over on the west side in the Leroy, Albany, West Marshall, and Pearson area, west of Woodward near the Allen Street. There were about 12 vehicles that were attacked. All of them were open vehicles. Again, we would like to reiterate to folks that this was probably the acts of one individual or one group of individuals that they all happened at the same time, and they went down 4 streets and found unlocked vehicles. The type of things that were stolen were what you would expect: loose change, some money, some electronics that were not affixed to the vehicles. So we, once again, we will be vigilant in looking for these perpetrators, but at the same time, a locked vehicle, they will generally move on to the low-hanging fruit, if you will.
Chief, that is the same rough neighborhood that happened last time, is it not? Or?
It is close to that neighborhood, but not exactly the same neighborhood.
Okay.
But, we kind of got an idea of who the suspect is again, because out of the last 4 times, I think 2 of them we were able to put it on the same group of young individuals. So we're still looking at that as a possibility. That doesn't mean that they're the ones that were involved, but 2 out of 4 times we had the same perpetrators for the same type of crimes. And it's very indicative of the same type of thing, is that we don't blame the residents because they feel safe enough to leave their vehicles unlocked, but just the simple locking of your vehicles can save you a lot of heartache.
Thanks.
In addition to that, over the last year, we have had a slight uptick in the number of residential break-ins of vacant and/or homes under construction. Just recently, over the weekend, we had another break-in on West Marshall where all the appliances were taken out of the home, the hot water heater was taken out of the home, part of the furnace was taken out of the home, and the air conditioning compressor was taken out of the backyard, and nobody saw anything. So we consistently talk to our people that are selling homes and banks and whatnot, but just for the neighborhoods, if you see anything, it's consistent where we have either the copper thieves. They're a little bit harder to catch because they are cutting the pipes up into smaller increments, and they can get them out without looking too suspicious. But when we have these appliance thieves, it's somewhat amazing that they get all those type of things out of a house and nobody seems to notice. So just a reminder to your neighbors that if you see anybody that is moving large appliances out of the home, they could be legit, but even if they are, we will be very friendly, come up and make sure they are, and if they're not, we would like to put them in jail.
Gotcha.
One of the things is that we are now our good friend Lloyd will be sucking up leaves over the next several months, and we want to remind our neighbors that as we put those, he doesn't like Lloyd and suck in the same sentence. We want to remind our neighbors that when we have those leaves out there, please don't park on them. Today's vehicles get very warm and it can start fires.
Yeah.
We have, Kevin will probably talk about it as well, but I beat him to the punch. And then lastly, this weekend, as we know, it will be Devil's Night and Halloween. And we traditionally remind our friends and with the little ones to please dress them with as much light and lighter clothing as you possibly can. Please stay with the little ones, and if they're after dark, please don't follow your child around in your car. Get out and walk with your kids. Don't go the wrong way on the street or park with your headlights. It causes a glare, and it creates an unsafe situation. It may be fun to watch your kids walk down the street while you drive, but it does create a hazard for everybody else, particularly when the young ones cross the street in front of a car with headlights on. So we'd just like to remind folks to get out with the kids, have a good time, but please walk with them.
Right.
Thanks.
And yeah, go ahead.
I just want to, you brought up the vehicle break-ins, and we've had a lot of them. It seems to be one of the top crimes in the city.
It is the top crime, Councilman.
Yeah.
Larceny from autos, without question, is the #1 issue that we have dealt with over the past 12 months.
Is there a way, or is there an opportunity for us to have kind of a program where maybe we allow some citizens with police officers to walk down some streets at night and find vehicles that are open, put a sticker on their car saying, lock it or lose it, lock their vehicle, and kind of make them aware that they need to be, they need to start locking their vehicle.
I can work with Kara, and I think maybe we can put the message out, and I think messaging is part of the solution. There's the limited number of folks that may or may not watch the council meeting on television, but getting the message out to folks that to not only Facebook and Twitter and stuff. We on our Twitter feed, we remind folks all the time, particularly after one of these incidents. But getting the word out is really paramount to preventing this type of crime, because this is not only is it the most, do we see it the most, it's also one of the most easiest one to prevent.
Yeah. If I may, through the chair, I'd like to follow up. I think Councilmember Polika is onto something with the flyering the cars. I think if you look at Wayne State University, they have a CompStat team to look at their crime, and they meet on a weekly or biweekly, monthly basis to go over their top crimes and car larceny as well. And they did a flyering program on the cars. So I think it might be helpful if we learned about their program to see if that would be helpful. They not only passed it out to businesses, but they also residents who lived around there, because they have a problem with that too, of people not locking their doors. Or is that something you've already investigated?
Well, we have to be careful because it's against the law. You put stuff on cars.
Well,
or
maybe we mail something to their house, because I think maybe electronic communications isn't actually getting through, so that's something I would consider. So.
Can I interject something, please? What about just putting a notice on everybody's water bill? The bottom of the bill, highlight it in big bold print.
Do we use the water bill as a communications tool? I'm looking at Kara. You may not know that because
you do, but it's only issued quarterly, so you would.
Right. An immediate message, but long term, I think that's a great idea. Yeah. Okay. And then, Chief, I would just mention, I know that there was a homicide in Royal Oak this morning that we participated in helping to.
Our SWAT team assisted in the clearance of the scene of the crime. That is correct. The investigative solution, the Oakland County Narcotics Enforcement Team, the gang task force that Royal Oak has an officer in, several of the federal agencies came together and very quickly solved that crime. Hats off to the Royal Oak Police Department. They did an outstanding job in solving a murder that occurred in the late hours of, I believe I got the call about 4 a.m. that they deployed SWAT, and by late afternoon they had the suspect in custody. So they did an outstanding job.
Great job all around, and appreciate you guys helping out. Thanks. All right, speaking of chiefs, the fire chief is also here. Chief Sullivan, anything from the fire department this evening?
Your Honor, Council, I just want to tail on the leaf. It'd be nice if everyone did not put the leaves out to the curbs through Angels Night and Halloween, and then rake them all after the events are over. There have been a staggering number of fires in Detroit along Highland Park and Hamtramck borders, and I mean 2, 3, 4 houses catching. We are on standby for the Detroit Fire Department. If they have anything along the northern border, we will be venturing in and giving them a hand to extinguish anything on Angels Night. So just so everyone knows, it's the potential, and to reiterate what Chief Collins said, when we do start raking all the leaves for collection from the DPW, don't park in them. That's like an absolute don't do it. They get caught up in the engine, and actually it's the catalytic converters that really get your car going while you're driving down the road. It's kind of spectacular. It's just something you probably don't want to live through.
Appreciate it.
Any questions?
All right. Jill, anything from the Recreation Department this evening? On a happier note, I'm hoping.
Just one quick announcement. Coming up on December 5th is our annual holiday showplace. So if anyone is interested in becoming a vendor, we have applications available at the Kulik Center and online at ferndalemi.gov. The event is from 9 to 3. And anyone interested in selling their crafts, mostly crafts. So feel free to visit the website and check it out. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Lloyd, speaking of DPW, we've referenced you a lot tonight. Speak for yourself.
My colleagues have already covered leaf pickup.
It does appear that.
The recycling bins. November is Bin Blitz, and the city will be participating once again. So if the residents out there need an additional recycling bin, they are available at the DPW for $6 instead of the normal 10. So.
Excellent.
Thank you.
If I may?
Yes.
Mayor, my understanding is there is going to be a new recycling program. I've been hearing about it through the county. Is that not taking place until 16 or 17, where the city's going to be getting all new bins, recycle bins?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's being negotiated and discussed at SACRA. No final decisions have been made because it will require our contract haulers to buy very expensive equipment. And so our contract does not expire until 17, I believe. And so there's still a lot of behind-the-scenes negotiating and contracts being written, trying to see what the industry standards are and as far as, what the expense might be on our haulers and how it would impact the cost to our residents.
Thank you.
Joe, anything else this evening?
Council and residents, I just want to remind you that this Friday will be the transition day for the city's new phone system. And I've been saying this all month, but just a reminder that on Friday we could be experiencing some technical difficulties that might occur due to the transition. But as a reminder, 911 will be up. Dispatch may temporarily be down, which is non-emergency lines, but we have prioritized maintaining those in the court and the elections line as well first. So if there are any questions, just let me know. But just a heads up to keep that in mind on Friday.
Good. Thanks. Kara, anything from the community engagement and communications perspective?
Allow me to be the fourth person to talk about leaves. Pickup began last week, and I'm already seeing some conversations breaking out on the forums about when, certain streets will be serviced and where can we find communications. So allow me to tell people right now. As a reminder, we have an event set up on Facebook so that we have one place where we can put a bunch of information. People interested in joining that should come to our Facebook page, facebook.com/ferndale.michigan, and it's listed right under our events. We also have all of the information on the inside of the new newsletter,
which was delivered. Mine came last week, within the last week and a half or so, delivered to all resident homes in Ferndale. And then there's also a news story with all the information on the homepage of our website, ferndalemi.gov. So you can find everything you need to know there. And I would just encourage anybody out on social media, if they have questions, they aren't on our Facebook event page, to reach out to our Facebook page, contact us on Twitter, even contact me personally, and we'll make sure we get the information to DPW and vice versa.
Excellent. Thank you. Marnie, anything from the clerk's office?
Yes. So, election is next Tuesday. We are open on Saturday. It would be the last day that you can pick up an absentee ballot to take out with you. We'll be open in the office from 9 to 2, so folks can stop down. As Joe mentioned, the phones are being changed over, but we're not anticipating any problems getting a hold of us, but we will be open from 9 to 2, so if you can't get through, come on down. We'll be here. Just want to reiterate, please get out and vote on November 2nd. Right now we have, November 3rd, we have 15,610 registered voters in the city of Ferndale. And in our last municipal election, about 23% came out, and that was partially due to our hot button issue that we had on the ballot at the time. So we just want to encourage people to raise that 23%. You know, get out there and please get out and vote. I can't say enough how important your local issues are. So please come out on November 3rd. And if you have any question about your polling locations, contact the clerk's office. And I just want to thank the 15 new precinct inspectors that we have for this election. We are very excited to get some new folks in. And next year when we have 9 precincts, they're going to come in handy.
Yes, they are.
And that's it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Marnie. April, anything from the city manager's office?
Just one thing. As you know, during the holiday season, we have a city council meeting that falls right during the week of Christmas. So typically in December, we have one meeting. We have actually 2 meetings in one night, which we would do our audit presentation and then the regular meeting. We're looking at December 14th as that meeting. And that gives us, I think, 28 days in between the meetings. So we don't like to go past 30. So just the way it falls, it works perfectly to have it on December 14th, which is the regular scheduled meeting for the first meeting of the month in December. So we will bring a formal call to action at the next meeting, but December 14th will be the only meeting for December.
All right. Dan, anything else?
Nothing tonight, Your
Legal department. All right. Councilman Martin.
We'll move from leaves to elections, repeatedly mentioned. So November 3rd, next Tuesday. Please get out and vote. I'd encourage you to support the non-homestead millage that's on the ballot, as well as I'm up for re-election, so I would be really grateful for your support. And the Raylon Leaks May is also on the ballot, who you saw earlier today, so I'd encourage your support for her as well. That's it.
Dan, Councilman Pollica.
I have 3 items. I'm not sure if this would be directed to DPW or the fire department, so I'm going to direct it to April. There was some conversation on social media about parking near fire hydrants, people getting ticketed. I didn't have enough time to really dive deep into the conversation, but it appears that a number of our streets do not have painted zones in front of the fire hydrants. So people are parking closer than what they should be. And I'm just wondering, what is the process, or do we have a process established for making sure that those non-parking areas on streets are, identified properly and are maintained on a regular basis? Second thing, we talked about leaves, I know, but as someone who lives on a one-side only parking street, I encourage my neighbors and I encourage other people living on one-sided parking streets to make sure that you put your leaves on the non-parking side of the street. That way you don't have to worry about ever parking on leaves. It's builds up one side of the street, but at least you don't eliminate any parking and you don't catch any vehicles on fire. And the last thing is voting. Vote, vote, vote. Vote early, vote often. And I would hope that you would support my fellow council member, Dan Martin. I will be, as well as current school board member and hopefully future council member Raylon Lees-May.
All right. Who's going to look into you're going to look into the fire hydrant issue? Awesome, great. Councilwoman Piana.
Yeah, I'm really excited to promote an event on November 4th at the Rust Belt Market called the Biz Innovate Session. And this is something that we announced at the last council meeting. And it is a result of the Small Business Council and the 6 organizations working together, which is the Downtown Development Authority, the Oakland County Michigan Works, the Ferndale Public Library, Ferndale Schools, and the Ferndale Area Commerce of Chamber. And we started meeting in March to figure out how do we better provide resources and collaborate with one another to support our businesses, small businesses in the downtown. And we thought that this session on November 4th really sort of spoke to small business owners and entrepreneurs, specifically owners who are looking to grow their business, particularly retail, and also small businesses who may be sort of a micro business in their home and looking to get out of their house and start building a presence in an actual lease space. And this is an opportunity to come learn about 5 new resources for supporting businesses that really haven't been introduced into Ferndale before. And 2 of them are Invest Detroit and the Build Institute. Actually, Build Institute held a program here in the summer, and we had many people in Ferndale participate. And then we also have the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program. They were here earlier and partnered with the Ferndale Chamber and had an event at Easy Like Sunday. And they were looking to enroll multiple businesses in Ferndale in their fall cohort, and they take 40 businesses. And I heard a little birdie told me today that 4 businesses were accepted past the second round. So businesses who have been going through the Goldman Sachs program have really expanded their business not only in Ferndale, but help expand a second retail location elsewhere in Metro Detroit. And then the other 2 speakers are Sidewalk Ventures and ZipCap. And these are really interesting new businesses, entrepreneurs helping entrepreneurs, something called local vesting. And this is something for retailers who perhaps aren't getting funding or loans from a bank and cannot get access to capital. These programs are about using your residents and citizens in your community to say, hey, I frequent your business, I really love your business, and I want to invest in your business. And so these are new programs that are entering the marketplace for retailers to help figure out how do I start a dinner service? How do I expand a new retail line in my business? And so using your biggest supporters, which are your local investors, which are your customers. So I really encourage businesses to come out on November 4th. It's from 8 to 10. There's no need to register. Just show up.
AM, that is.
AM. And each of the speakers will have 10 minutes to present, and then afterwards, businesses who are coming can actually talk to them and see if they're a good fit for their business. Why is this all important for Ferndale? Well, we know that we've heard more than once that retail is important in our downtown and that we need more retail. Well, saying more retail doesn't actually result in more retail. You actually need strategies, and getting more retail in your downtown requires multiple strategies. And one of those ways is business retention and attraction, and I know the DDA, our new director, is focusing on strengthening that. We also are looking at a retail strategy with our current master plan use planning expert, Gibbs Planning, who's coming up with a retail strategy based off of a target market analysis. And then we are trying to collaborate more closely with the 6 organizations that I had talked about and provide more resource connections to our businesses in our downtown. And of course, I helped launch the Small Business Council 2 weeks ago, which models your mayor's business council, and really diving into what are the specific needs of small business in our downtown. So those are 4 different strategies that we're trying to target for retail and supporting our small business. And I'm really hopeful that we'll have a great turnout on November 4th. And then I just wanted to say, elections coming up, I have fully support the re-election of Dan Martin. He's been absolutely critical to the success of council and leading certain initiatives in our city, which I've been most appreciative, and leveraging your talents, which we all do on council. And then I'm supporting Raylon Leaks May, who is already a leader in our community on the Ferndale School Board, and I'm very excited to have her on council joining us. And I fully support Raylon for November 3rd. Thank you.
Wonderful. Just a couple of things. I want to thank the Ferndale seniors. Every year they do a mayor's town hall forum where I get to go to their monthly meeting and share what's going on with the city, and more importantly, hear back from them, their concerns and issues. And it was a great dialogue that we had a couple of weeks ago. So thanks to Jeannie Davis and all the seniors for having me out. Really enjoyed that. Speaking of thank yous, the Citizens for a Fair Ferndale once again sponsored the candidate town halls that happened just this last weekend. There's such an important way to help residents understand what's going on at the local political level, especially this year when the League of Women Voters didn't do a forum like they normally do. And a shout out to Keith Dalton who taped it, and it's soon to be on our cable station. So if you haven't had a chance to meet the candidates or hear from them, it will soon be playing on a channel near you. I encourage you to check that out so you can make an educated vote. As my colleague said, I'm proud to support the re-election of my colleague Dan Martin. So Dan, good luck next Tuesday. And I also support Raylon Leaks May from our school board. I think she'll add a voice here that is missing. But good luck to all the candidates. Also, oh, by the way, because Raylon mentioned it earlier, the non-homestead tax renewal for the schools is really, really important. It's a significant part of their budget. It's not an increase. In fact, if you're just a homeowner in town, it's not even a tax for you, but it's important to the schools, and I would encourage a yes on that as well. But however you vote, please make sure next Tuesday you get out to the polls and express yourselves in our democracy. Thank you, and meeting adjourned.